Hey, greetings, it's the Obi Witch. Today I want to talk about spellwork and prayer and how they're connected. Is there a difference? Yes, no, maybe, and what is Wiccan spellwork and how does that work? Okay, first let me say these are my opinions and that's what works for me, and not everyone will agree with them. Okay, so before I begin, I'm going to define what magic is. Magic, or spellwork type thing, is the projection of natural energies to produce needed effects. And for me, prayer is communication with the divine. So that's pretty much, the basic things, Christopher Pinsack, in one of his books, defines um, spellwork as you communicating with the universe, which is basically the same thing as prayer, and then defines meditation as the universe communicating with you. I also kind of like that thin definitions too. But for me, the line between prayer and spellwork is kind of blurred. And how I see spellwork, I divide the power behind spellwork into 3 different categories. These actually come from Scott Cunningham's book, Wicca Guide for Solitary Practitioner, and he defines 3 basic energy sources for spellwork. It's earth power, personal power, and divine power. So I'm going to define each one and explain how, for me, how each one coincides with how I work with magic. The first one's earth power. This is the energy that resides within the planet, the whole cosmos, the stones, the trees, the winds, the flames, bones, water, herbs, incense, salt, all those basic natural stuff that we use, that many pagans use in the spellwork. These are any herbs, any stones. That's the power of the earth. They have their own energy, and that can be drawn upon in spellwork. The second part is personal power. This is the energy of our bodies. We release energy anytime we exercise, or any movement, sex, if you're a woman, child, chanting, talking, exhaling, all release energy. And of course, we also absorb energy into our bodies from the sun, the moon, the water we drink, the food we eat. Even the people that's our personal power. And the third, in my personal opinion, is the most important, divine power. This is the life force, Lord, Lady, the God, the Goddess, the Trinity, however you prefer to call it, the source. And this is prayer or meditation, that's defined in that. So you could certainly work a spell with any one of these specifically. You could work, with just earth power, with just personal power, or just divine power. I agree with Scott Cunningham when he says, Wiccan, specifically, I can't speak for all Pagans past, because I know, it's going to be different, but they try to incorporate all 3 into the spell work. And so if we're going to, so if the spell work is that projection of natural energies to produce needed effects, it's learning to use these natural energies to help bring about the divine effect. And the way I have also learned, at least in my first cabin, that all magic is worked for the greater good of all with harm to none. The greater good is the divine principle, the God, Goddess, the Lord, Lady. So that is in a sense prayer, or asking that is not going to happen unless it's for our greater good. It's not going to harm us or anyone involved. Certainly not all magical practitioners work that in those spells. Again, not all spells are prayers, but I think for the average Wiccan, spell and prayer work is a very, very blurred path. And so how would I incorporate all 3 of these in the spell work? So let's say I would when I would do a spell, I normally use an herb. I do. That herb, that's going to be that energy I might draw upon it, because different herbs have different properties, or different stones or crystals. Then of course I'm going to draw upon my personal, so I'm going to charge my own energy into maybe like a candle to help push that out into the cosmos. And then I'm going to say maybe a prayer, invoke deity, I'm going to call deity and ask that this be done for the greater good, and pull in. So I'm going to pull in all 3 of those, and that's how I work a spell. I include all 3 sources of energy, or power, or however you want to think. And so that's why, for me, a Wiccan spell is not complete unless you include all 3. Now, certainly, like I said, I know many ceremonial physicians who only work with personal power, or they work with earth power, and they don't use divine power, and in that case, it wouldn't be a prayer. And like many Christians only work with divine power, and some of them work with personal power, whether they want to agree with it or not. And for me, as a pagan, I have all, well, Christo-Pagan, my me, but my prayer life is so much more rich because I have all these resources. You know, God has given us this magnificent gift, and we have a lot of energies in our disposal, and we got to do our part. But we also can have faith in that God's going to do His part, or God is however you prefer to call it. So for me, spell work is a natural part. It's a gift. It's something that we have. We can work. You know, Jesus repeatedly says in the Bible, "Ask and you shall receive. Ask, ask, ask. Keep on knocking. Keep on seeking." And for me, spell work allows me to do that. I'm gonna put in my own energy, my own time. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna use the energies around me of the earth and the cosmos. But I'm also gonna call upon the higher power, and I'm gonna ask them, and that's all gonna be into my spell work. So for me, they're all kind of mixed in together, and one big thing. It's very hard for me to separate. Saying a prayer from casting a spell, because for me, all these energies kind of merge and blur into one thing, which I call spell casting. Okay, many blessings.